Well, this is an interesting one. Somebody is trying to take on Call of Duty. In this case, it's Ubisoft, but we also know that even the likes of Sony are kind of trying to do that. I mean, hey, Microsoft tried to make Crossfire X a thing. Didn't really work out, did it? As for Sony, they actually have a currently rather embattled Treyarch team working and stuff. They have a whole bunch of free-to-play teams. Now we have Ubisoft throwing their hat into the ring with xDefiant, a game that is actually catching on. Yeah, it is, because in many ways, it is what a lot of people want. And the important context here is that Call of Duty right now does appear to be facing some retention issues with its most recent games, especially with Warzone 2 and it taking a few controversial moves. So let's take a look then at this apparent spiritual successor to a certain era of Call of Duty that many of us very much enjoyed. Now, the first thing that we've just got to get out of the way is what's happened and why are we talking about this? So, for the Twitch numbers, we've got to acknowledge that Ubisoft have been giving away beta keys via Twitch drops, right? And these are Twitch drops happening in the channels of FPS pros who have got beta access, which humongously artificially inflates viewership. That is what the whole Twitch drop marketing meta does. Also, there were some technical issues that made the beta at times unplayable. All of these factors, though, contributed to a pretty damn healthy-looking viewership on streaming services. Of course, how much of that translates to reality, it's pretty hard to say. Now, the thing is, what does xDefiant have to offer? Because to a lot of people, just like, oh, another thing off the Ubisoft factory line, blah, blah, who cares? Actually, no. It does have things to offer. They are emulating classic design choices for the multiplayer maps and weapons from a certain era of Call of Duty. I'm thinking like between your COD 4s to, maybe, 4, 5, 6 years past that, right? They're talking about having continuous lobbies between matches with set game modes, something a lot of people miss. No skill-based matchmaking in casual. Now, this is something that was in COD 4, perhaps it just wasn't as tightly bound as it is right now. But for a lot of people, look, they want to be able to pub stomp. And in the newer COD games, it's harder to pub stomp because if you pub stomp, skill-based matchmaking will make you play against other pub stompers, and you're not going to pub stomp each other because you're at a pretty similar level of skill. To a lot of people, this turns it into a very, sweaty, not enjoyable form of default game experience, which has its pros and its cons. It's one of those things, if you look at some data, skill-based matchmaking actually does help by the data, but I suppose another side of that is, to a lot of people, they maybe don't feel much of a sense of skill progression as they get better and better and better, because as they get better, they're matched up with people who are also just getting better to the point where it's just a very static feeling game experience, right? So there's that. There is a hidden MMR for balancing teams between rounds, though. Also, input-based matchmaking, so if you're a console player, you don't have to worry about that PC player with a sniper rifle who's just going to delete you, and if you're a PC player, you don't have to worry about aim assist getting you killed. Which, certainly, if you look at Halo, that has been quite the debate. But it basically means if you were growing up in COD, Modern Warfare, maybe Modern Warfare 2, then perhaps you're going to be liking this. And one of those reasons is Mark Rubin, who's the executive producer of this game, and was also executive producer over on a bunch of those Call of Duties. And he's been very public, talking about things with this game. Very much saying, this is a game based on what you want, not what the analytics are pointing towards. And that is the interesting thing, because here's what's going on. Sometimes analytics are self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like the numbers that you generate are because of the design decisions that you made. So the numbers that you generate they're already kind of pigeonholed a bit. Then you have that thing where, yeah, followers follow the numbers. Creators create new numbers. So if you're always just following the numbers, maybe you're not going to be making those big, interesting, creative decisions that really, change the game. I think that's something a lot of people don't think enough about. Another side of this is just locking in collaborations with a lot of notable, current and former COD community figureheads who are also on board promoting this game. And when you take a look, a lot of the tweets, It's just like features that I want to play. No skill-based matchmaking, ranked mode being there from launch, lobby staying together, red dots and mini-maps, map voting, just to name a few. Hint, I'm making that game. Like, he's just been very open about just tweeting to a lot of things that core FPS players have been complaining about with some of the modern entries that they've been presented with. And that's the thing that's noteworthy, because to a lot of people who play these games, they don't feel like they're being listened to. They feel like, you know, Activision's following the analytics, but that is not always leading to an experience that they want, as you know, as evidenced by a lot of the issues that modern COD has had. And very much unlike the Activision monolith, we're seeing far more open development and close collaboration with, you know, in some cases, like respected community members. Like here we even have, as an example, the 2022 Insider Session Roadmap. It's like, yeah, you're going to ingratiate yourself towards people if you're making your game like that. So the question then is, how do FPS players think about it? Well, by default, it was a lot of, oh, Ubisoft slop, don't care. But I think as people have played it more and more and more, I'm beginning to see people just say, oh yeah, no, this game's legit. This is not a knockoff of COD. This is COD's origins. You know, as I said here by Robert Bowling, who of course a lot of people in and around COD, you know, will know, right? He was the original Modern Warfare creative strategist and community manager, you know? So like, if your game's impressing that guy and you want to go for the COD 4 audience, that's a pretty damn good thing. I actually saw Bulkhead Interactive's head, Joe Brammer, pretty much saying, oh, sweet, is this somebody taking on the pro mod mantle? That's what you want to hear? Of course, the question is, how many people is that going to appeal to versus a Call of Duty that, you know, has been following the analytics? That being said, not that that helped them too much with Warzone 2. And when you go through what they're actually targeting, to me, it's more interesting, right? A 6v6 competitive shooter based around map knowledge, movement, and gunplay with minimum bells and whistles around the side. Now, it is a modern game, so there are character abilities. There are skins, right? But somewhat of a middle ground between the modern COD turbo customization and the classic COD, right? That is essentially what they want to be going for. Broadly speaking, what I'm hearing is, for the people that it's actually targeted at, they're having a great time. There are some issues because it's beta, but it is actually being perceived as a game that is made for that audience, that a lot of that audience is actually enjoying. Now, look, a beta is a beta. As an example, Connell in our team who's editing this video, I remember he played one of the earlier sessions of it and, you know, initially kind of bounced off it because a particular gun, you know, its sound wasn't that good, but then he swapped to... I think it was basically to an intervention, and suddenly, oh, hang on a second, this actually feels more like the kind of game that I remember playing. It's like if you're saying that to people who enjoy playing COD, you know, Modern Warfare 2, zipping around the place with an intervention, you're going to make quite a few people happy. And that really is the group that this game is for, the people who are not really enjoying current modern Call of Duty. And really that... You know, that thing, it's like when they're playing Call of Duty, they're like, okay, I'm buying into this big blended business strategy between Warzone and a COD every year. Those CODs every year have chopped and changed. Some of them have been great. Some of them have been less great. I know a lot of people, I think it was a lot of the pros really enjoyed Black Ops Cold War. Plenty of the people who loved Modern Warfare 2019 did not enjoy Black Ops Cold War. All this sort of flipping about ended up not working for quite a few people. You've got Warzone 2, which has alienated quite a lot of people. And you've got skill-based matchmaking. One of those things where the data points towards skill-based matchmaking looking like a good thing, yet a lot of people who are playing games with skill-based matchmaking continuously find it to be quite annoying. This is definitely something that, like, a lot of streamers will have been setting the tone for. They were the people who would, I remember back when I was watching, like, FPS commentary videos back in the day, they'd be getting, 50 kills, 1 death, 50 kills, no deaths, because they're amazing, because they're pub stomping. Now, in reality, there has been skill-based matchmaking in almost all of these games for a long, long time. I would maybe posit, though, that it's just the tightness of that skill-based matchmaking. I think some of the newer incarnations are really aggressive with just how they do matchmaking. Like, they really do get groups together pretty damn tight. It's also one of those things, people are just so much more aware of it going on. There are other criticisms, though, ones that I think are maybe more rock solid to make, like the loss of lobbies, the pushing of the algorithms, meaning that you're never really shifting like from an average play experience. It's harder to have great and terrible matches when everybody is broadly the same level. But then xDefiant is marketing itself as not being that, which could then mean that the shooter experience with more ups and downs in terms of the matches that you're playing, that might actually be the experience that a lot of people prefer, that they actually enjoy more. They want more variation between those maps. I mean, to look at this tweet, this captures a lot of it. Playing xDefiant, having no skill-based matchmaking in public matches feels so refreshing. It feels organic. Each game has variety, never quite feels the same. Refreshing to not feel like I'm a victim to an algorithm that punishes me for playing well. And that is one of the things. Like, you can have skill-based matchmaking, but it's how wide is the bracket? Whereas if the bracket's like, really, really tight, then it's always going to feel like, oh, I got better, but I'm not doing better. And to a lot of people, that's just not satisfying. That's a problem for modern Call of Duty, right? Something that Ubisoft is actually really thinking that they can fight. Now, that being said, with heavily skill-based movement and all of that, like, yeah, get ready to be stomped on if you're playing it pretty casually. All right, so it's just all part of the experience. And I think one of those big questions will be, how much of that, like, very broad casual audience will actually make it in here. Of course, one of the big questions is going to be, to that very broad casual audience, like, the people who are going to get stomped in this pub stomp, what's going on? How's it going to be for them? I mean, here's somebody saying, like, this is how I know xDefiant's on the right track. And the person they're quoting is a Redditor saying, everyone is a bullet sponge for me, while others just one-shot me more often than not. Not sure if it's a connection thing. Getting tired of playing against mouse and keyboard while it appears that aim assist simply doesn't work. Has huge potential. Would be a shame if it went down the super nerd road again that ignores casual gamers who don't want to spend thousands of hours to practice a video game. This is how I know xDefiant is on the right track. So, like, that's one side of things. The other side of things is like this. Let's take a look at an example of movement here. I mean, do you remember looking at the big kill videos back in the day and seeing some of the movement people are pulling off? Like, this looks like that, And I mean, to me, this looks like hell yeah, super fun. To a lot of people, though, they're going to prefer a Modern Warfare 19 to this kind of, to this kind of pace, right? I'm very glad, though, that this game exists, that it's trying to do this. And it's one of those things, it is appealing to a lot of those who set the tone of discussion within the shooter space, like, the streamers, the YouTubers, that will undoubtedly have a sort of trickling down effect on their audience, because as much as, there's the games that we play, there's also the cultural dimension. The cultural dimension will really impact what people actually want and how they process the game mechanics that they see. So I do think that a lot of people are going to be primed to see this as a really like a potentially very positive return to form. Now, the one thing, this is what Mark Rubin has said, is that this is made by a small team inside Ubisoft, that they do not have like big giga money, right? So really for them, like, they're focusing on the gameplay, they're focusing on that really tight feedback loop, but essentially not to expect like the production value, of a Call of Duty, which I think is fine for so many people. They don't care however many $1 million were spent on the Call of Duty campaign. That is, I don't know, like a 4 to 5 hour long, very expensive action movie. The bit that they want is a fun multiplayer competitive shooter with, movement mechanics that honestly you could say you can cheese a bit and do absolutely loopy shit. Which, of course, playing COD 4, playing COD 2, doing the maximal exploitation of every little bit of geometry in a map. It's something that I know well. Not that I was ever remotely good at pro mod, to be very clear. Then another side of this, I think, is Ubisoft definitely being hungry for a win, right? I mean, here's something funny. Here's the roadmap for Rainbow Six Extraction. Ubisoft original. Now, if you didn't know, you'd probably think, wow, look at these cycles. Well, actually, this is just a rerun. Yeah, this is a rerun of another year. They evidently did not view it, really being, worth doing. Now, they do have games like The Club, For Honor, Rainbow Six Siege. They're just quietly working away with their consistent, great content cadence. But the likes of Extraction, Ghost Recon Breakpoint, it just doesn't, the work is not justified to just keep those updates going. You've got the likes of, Hyperscape. It had high skill ceiling, pretty dwindling player numbers, ended up being pulled, right? Whereas if you look at this with xDefiant, like, it was kind of laughed at the start, but they are sticking with it. And now we're actually seeing Ubisoft with a lot of people who are really jazzed about their game. Like, I have noticed it, and I know this might sound weird, but I played World of Warcraft over here, and then I rotated my chair to my TV, and I would be playing COD 4, Modern Warfare 2, Black Ops 1. Like, that's what it was when I was growing up. So I look at xDefiant, it in many ways does appeal to me pretty damn greatly, and I can see why. It's just going to be that question of, how big is that audience really? Because a lot of us, we've grown up. Many people have found voices on Twitch. But I suppose for that younger audience, what are they going to think? Will they enjoy the type of game that we all played over a decade ago? Not to surprise you, but 2007 and 2009, kind of a long time ago. Or was it 2010 for Modern Warfare 2? Anyway, I think you get the point. So I think this is interesting. This is an example of Ubisoft actually managing to not pull an Ubisoft, because the one thing you'd always hear us criticize them for is just like doing a gameplay entry in a genre. And you're just like, this feels uninspired and boring. Whereas here, yes, this is another shooter, but it's one that feels targeted at people who really want that type of game, who don't feel like they're getting it anymore. That's good, that's different to some of what we've seen, like, with your Ghost Recon Breakpoint, just trying to go a little bit more Division with its RPG elements. And you're like, what? Who are you making this for? This isn't for Ghost Recon fans. Whereas with this is a game they're making that is definitely for someone. So, honestly, as much as it's all fun to laugh at Ubisoft, I'm here for it, and I wish them the best with this one. I hope it ends up being good, because that's a type of shooter that I think really, could have a good place in the market. So let me know. Did you play it? What did you think? I'll see you next time.